At 2 a.m., Mount Etna's southeastern slope crept 4 centimeters toward the sea, an entire year's worth of movement unleashed in less than 3 hours. By sunrise, Italy's lead volcanologist sounded the alarm. Etna had shifted overnight, revealing fresh fractures where there were none before. For the scientists watching, this was far more dangerous than any eruption. What triggered this unprecedented acceleration? And how close did we just come to catastrophe? Just after midnight, the raw GPS data began to shift. Numbers that usually crawl by fractions of a millimeter suddenly leapt forward. The southeastern flank of Mount Etna, a mass of rock weighing billions of tons, moved 4 centimeters toward the sea in less than 3 hours. For decades, scientists tracked this slope inching forward at a snail's pace, millimeter by millimeter, year after year. But on this night, the mountain compressed years of movement into a single, silent episode. The displacement plot from the Catania monitoring station looked like a heartbeat spiking out of nowhere. At 2 a.m., the line on the graph rose almost vertically. By 3 a.m., the total slip reached 40 millimeters. No gradual buildup, no warning tremors, just a sudden jolt captured in digital code. This was not the slow, patient drift that geologists expect from Etna's restless flank. It was a sprint, an acceleration so dramatic that it shattered the baseline for what is considered normal. Scientists who reviewed the data later described the jump as a record breaker. In the world of volcano monitoring, where change is usually measured in slow motion, this was the equivalent of a lightning strike. The magnitude of the shift left experts stunned. On the ground, nothing seemed amiss in the darkness, but the numbers told a different story. A year's worth of geological strain had been unleashed in a matter of hours, and the mountain had not asked permission. By the time the sun rose over Sicily, the gravity of the situation was clear. The mountain had moved, far and fast. The data did not just suggest a problem, it screamed that something fundamental had changed inside Etna. The sheer speed of the shift forced scientists to reconsider what they thought they knew about the volcano's stability. Every monitoring station along the southeastern slope confirmed the same result. The movement was not a blip or an error. It was real, it was fast, and it happened while the world slept. The mountain, for reasons still unknown, had decided to lurch forward. This was not the slow creep of geological time. This was acceleration on a scale that defied expectation. A warning, written in centimeters and hours instead of millennia. The only question was what would happen next, and whether anyone was truly prepared to answer it. At 6 in the morning, the INGV Monitoring Center in Catania switched from routine observation to emergency posture. The automated system flagged the anomaly as soon as the night's data finished uploading. The spike was not a glitch. Every GPS station on the southeastern slope confirmed the same abrupt movement. 4 centimeters, all in the same direction, all within hours. The alert protocol demanded immediate action. Within minutes, Dr. Elena Rossi, lead geophysicist on shift, was reviewing the displacement plots and cross-checking satellite feeds. She had spent years watching Etna's numbers crawl across her screen, but nothing in her experience matched the speed of this shift. Rossi's first move was to verify the readings. She called up raw logs from the Catania, Milo, and Zaffarana stations, looking for any sign of instrument error or data lag. The values matched, the timestamps aligned, the movement was real. By 6:10 in the morning, she initiated the emergency workflow, alerting the on-call response team, flagging the event in the National Geophysical Database, and preparing a situation report for civil protection authorities. The center's protocols were precise, every action time-stamped, every communication logged. As the control room filled with staff, Rossi coordinated with technicians to double-check the integrity of the borehole tilt meters. Those instruments, embedded deep in the mountain, confirmed that the deformation was not limited to the surface. The entire flank had shifted as a block. The seismic team, working in parallel, scanned for tremor clusters or aftershocks. Nothing unusual appeared. The silence in the data was as unsettling as the movement itself. By 6:20 in the morning, Rossi authorized the first round of field inspections. Teams prepared to deploy to Milo and Zaffarana Etna, ready to document any new surface fractures or road damage. Meanwhile, the Satellite Operations Group scheduled an emergency SAR pass to map the deformation in high resolution. Rossi briefed her colleagues in Rome and notified the Regional Civil Protection Office. The center's workflow, honed over decades of volcanic crises, was built for moments like this, moments when the mountain breaks its own rules and forces everyone to adapt. Inside the control room, the atmosphere was tense but measured. Data flowed in from every corner of the mountain, charts updated in real time, phone lines buzzed with coordinated updates. Rossi kept her focus on the numbers, knowing that every minute counted. The protocols were clear: verify, communicate, prepare for escalation. The mountain had made a move. Now it was up to the scientists to determine what it meant and how soon the next move might come. By sunrise, the damage was no longer hidden in data streams or seismic charts. Along Provincial Road SPV9, the asphalt had split open, jagged cracks snaking across lanes that only hours before had seemed perfectly sound. In Milo, new fissures traced the edge of the pavement, while in Zaffarana Etna, the ground had ruptured in patterns that mirrored the mountain's overnight movement. These were not shallow surface blemishes. Inspectors found that some cracks cut deep into the subsurface, offsetting curbs, sidewalks, and even the stone walls that mark old property lines. The fractures appeared in clusters, mostly along the southeastern slope, exactly where the GPS stations had recorded the greatest displacement. Civil protection teams marked the worst sections with warning tape, but the sense of unease was harder to contain. For local residents, the evidence was impossible to ignore. Giovanni, a vineyard owner on the lower flank near Zaffarana, woke before dawn to a sound he would later describe as a low, drawn-out groan. It was not thunder, and it was not the distant pop of volcanic gas. It was the ground itself, straining under invisible pressure. When he walked his rows at first light, Giovanni found his stone retaining wall had buckled overnight. The wall, built by his grandfather, now bulged outward where the earth had shifted beneath it. New cracks ran through the field, cutting across the gravel path and into the vineyard soil. He traced them with his boot, following their path downhill toward the road. Neighbors gathered outside, comparing what they had found. A garden gate stuck tight, a garage door that no longer closed, a fresh split in a kitchen floor tile. In the town square, talk shifted quickly from weekend plans to civil protection updates. Many had lived through Etna's eruptions, but this felt different, quieter, stranger, and more unsettling. The cracks on SPV9 became a symbol of the night's silent upheaval, proof that the mountain's movement was not just a number on a scientist's screen. It was written into the ground itself, threading through homes, vineyards, and the daily lives of everyone on the southeastern slope. Beneath Etna's southeastern slope, the story unfolds in slow motion. Most of the time, the mountain sits atop ancient marine clay, a layer laid down millions of years ago when this part of Sicily was still seafloor. This is not solid bedrock. It is a dense, slippery foundation that struggles to anchor the weight above it. The volcano itself is massive, pressing downward with the force of 350 cubic kilometers of rock and magma. Gravity, relentless and patient, pulls the entire eastern flank toward the Ionian Sea. The base tilts gently seaward, setting up a system where the mountain's own mass is always nudging the slope to slide. Movement along this detachment is not dramatic most years. Instead, it is measured in increments so small they escape notice, about 14 millimeters each year. Scientists call this creep. It is the background hum of geological time, a slow drift that only specialized instruments can detect. Every year, the southeastern block inches closer to the sea, held back by friction, where the volcanic rock meets the underlying clay. That friction acts as the mountain's last line of defense, the unseen grip preventing sudden disaster. But friction is not constant. Over time, water, pressure, and even tiny earthquakes can weaken the contact. The clay itself can behave more like thick mud than stone, especially under the immense weight pressing down from above. This slow-motion sliding is not unique to Etna, but the scale here is extraordinary. The boundary where the volcano rests on the clay acts as a giant slip surface. When friction is high, the mountain holds. When it drops even slightly, the block can lurch forward. The normal 14-millimeter annual creep is a sign that the system is always in motion, always negotiating the balance between gravity and resistance. The real danger comes when that balance tips, and years of steady movement are compressed into hours. The mechanics of this sliding block, gravity, a sloping clay base, and the ever-changing grip deep underground are what make Etna's southeastern flank inherently unstable. It is a system primed for movement, whether slow and silent, or, as seen overnight, sudden and impossible to ignore. Two theories now compete to explain what drove Etna's overnight lurch. The first, long favored by many volcanologists, ties flank movement to the restless pulse of magma inside the mountain. In this model, magma rising beneath the summit chamber inflates the peak like a slow balloon, forcing the flanks outward. GPS and tilt meters usually pick up this swelling as a clear precursor, summit inflation, and then outward slip. When magma pressure is the driver, the warning signs line up: rising gas emissions, summit uplift, and a surge in seismic tremors. These clues help scientists anticipate when the mountain might move. But the data from last night tell a different story. Every instrument across Etna's upper slopes reported an absence of summit inflation. The mountain's summit remained unchanged, even as the southeastern flank slid forward. There was no swelling, no buildup of internal pressure, no volcanic signature in the hours before the shift. Instead, the GPS and borehole tilt meters captured a block of rock moving as a unit, with no evidence of magma pushing from below, just a sudden loss of grip along the sliding plane. This points to the second, and far more troubling, explanation: gravity-driven failure. In this scenario, the mountain's own mass and the weak, clay-rich foundation beneath it are to blame. The southeastern flank sits on a slippery slope, always nudged seaward by gravity. Most years, friction along the detachment surface keeps the block in check, allowing only a slow, steady creep. But when friction drops, perhaps from water infiltration, deep-seated weakening, or slow stress accumulation, the entire sector can slip abruptly with no warning from the summit. Dr. Rossi described it as the mountain moving under its own weight, with the internal glue giving way in silence. This decoupling between summit activity and flank motion is what rattles the scientific community. If gravity alone is now the main driver, the usual signs, summit swelling and seismic clusters, may no longer provide advance notice. The flank could slip again without any volcanic signal, making prediction far more difficult. The evidence from last night's shift has forced a hard look at the limits of current monitoring. The most dangerous movements may be the ones no one sees coming. Hydrodynamic simulations run by hazard analyst Marco Venturi reveal what is truly at stake. If Etna's southeastern flank were to fail completely, the mass of rock, several cubic kilometers in volume, would plunge into the Ionian Sea in a single, unstoppable slide. The water displaced would not ripple gently outward. Instead, models predict a towering wall of water, between 10 and 20 meters high, racing for the Sicilian coast. For towns like Riposto, Giare, and Assyriale, the timeline is unforgiving. The first wave would strike in just 10 minutes. That is less time than it takes to clear a school or evacuate a hospital. Calabria, across the strait, would be hit minutes later. Within an hour, the shock waves would reach the Greek mainland and the Mediterranean's crowded shipping lanes. The scenario is not a product of imagination. Geological records confirm that about 8,000 years ago, a similar collapse at Etna sent tsunamis crashing into shores from Italy to Israel. Layers of marine sediment found in archaeological digs and deep sea cores tell the story of a disaster that reshaped coastlines and left behind sudden, chaotic deposits. The evidence lines up. Where the mountain failed, the sea responded with violence. Venturi points to a more recent warning from the other side of the world. In December 2018, the Indonesian volcano Anak Krakatau lost part of its flank in a silent collapse. The tsunami that followed killed more than 400 people along the Sunda Strait. There was almost no warning, just a sudden surge of water in the dark. The difference, Venturi notes, is scale. Etna's unstable sector is 10 times larger than what fell at Krakatau, and the potential for devastation is magnified accordingly. The models are clear, the timelines are short, and the historical echoes are impossible to ignore. For the communities along Sicily's coast, the threat is not theoretical. It is a countdown that begins the moment the mountain moves. A network of high-precision instruments now stands guard over Etna's unstable flank. Dual-frequency GPS receivers, anchored deep into the volcanic slopes, track movement down to the millimeter. Borehole tilt meters, buried hundreds of meters below the surface, register even the slightest change in the mountain's angle. These readings update in real time, feeding into the INGV monitoring center as the yellow alert remains in effect. Overhead satellites equipped with synthetic aperture radar sweep across the region, searching for invisible shifts that might escape ground-based sensors. Every data point is scrutinized, and each chart is refreshed minute by minute. The mountain is in a new configuration, its internal structure altered by the overnight slip. Scientists watch for any sign of renewed motion, knowing that the next reading could change everything. A sudden slip on Etna's flank is not just a local crisis. It ripples far beyond Sicily. The Ionian Sea, stretching eastward from the volcano's base, is a major corridor for Mediterranean shipping. Cargo vessels, oil tankers, and passenger ferries thread these waters every day, linking Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. If Etna's unstable sector were to fail catastrophically, the resulting tsunami would not only devastate coastal towns but also scatter ships and disrupt trade routes within minutes. Ports could be shut, supply chains severed, and maritime insurance claims would soar. Air travel isn't immune, either. Ash clouds from a parallel eruption could ground flights across southern Europe, stranding travelers and halting freight. The mountain's overnight shift has exposed a vulnerability that stretches across borders, a threat that could paralyze the Mediterranean's arteries with almost no warning. Today, Etna's silent shift exposes a risk that no siren can warn against. With gravity, not magma, now driving instability, the possibility of sudden collapse is real, and warning time could vanish. For millions along the Mediterranean, vigilance is the only defense. Nature's timetable is unknown, its consequences undeniable. Stay alert. What would you do if the ground beneath you moved without warning? Share your thoughts below.